Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Shall we start?
Okay.
Okay. Right. Uh, Today we are going to discuss about payment of checks. What are the procedures? What are the legal requirements? And how the best practices in the industry, banking sector, especially talking about checks payment. And
Good morning, sir.
good morning. Yeah. We discuss about the payment of checks. So I think we have discussed last week about collecting bankers' responsibility and collection of checks. So collection of checks and payment of checks are going both hand to hand. Similarly, with the same instrument we are going to handle. So for the legal procedures are more or less same, except for the practices in payment and practices in uh, collection. Okay. So therefore, sometimes some slides may be repeated, so that to remind you back what we are discussing in the last session. Okay, right. The check is defined as bill of exchange drawn on a bank payable on demand. Section 73 of bill of exchange order. The last week also we discussed this. It's a bill of exchange. It's a legal instrument, legal exchange, and so we are bill of exchange draw is someone a named person. Here, Rho V is a banker. We discussed last week in details this. On the other hand, condition says a written order to bank to pay money. Now, this what we finally discussed is an order. So therefore, this order comes with a mandate. Last week we discussed that. Mandate is the contract between the bank and the customer or the account holder. So he is giving order to the banker to pay his checks whenever it presented for payment if the funds are available. That's the order. Right? So therefore, banker is playing the role of, we discussed last week, an agent of the customer. Customer is the principal, bank is the agent. So it's an application is the agent principal rule. So the bank will pay whenever check is presented for payment. Now we going to discuss about this payment of check on that ground. Whenever check is presented for payment, what are the things we we had to look into. Right now, this we have discussed what is the instrument. Check is unconditional order. It's an unconditional order. That's no condition. Please pay. No, we discussed last week. Pay after getting what do you call a receipt. Those type of conditions can be, or after delivering of goods, pay this check. That type of or what do you call conditions can be applied. It's unconditional order. It is in writing, addressed by one person called drawer. Two must be for a drawee, another person, signed by the person giving it called drawer. Requesting banker to whom the drawee to pay on demand a sum of certain money. Pay on demand. As and when presented for payment, we have to pay the check. If it's what you call strategy requirements are completed on the face of it and the funds are available, it has to be paid. To order a specified person or a bearer. Now these two are we are going to discuss who is this bearer, who is this specific person to be paid. Right? The check is a document which orders a bank to pay a particular amount of money from person's account to another individual's or company's account in whose name the check has been made or issued. So if it's a check is issued, the payee's name is included, then pay to that payee or to payee or his order. He can transfer this check we discussed last week, negotiate this if it's a order check, bearer check, it can be transferred to anybody person. So any person who holding a check can present for payment. We have to keep in mind that whoever present this check, we have to pay. That's the difference between payment savings withdrawal and a payment of a check. only the customer or the account holder only can withdraw, nobody else. Third parties are not permitted. But here, whoever present that check, we had to pay. So therefore, the risk and responsibility of the paying bank is very large. Because sometimes there can be signatures forged. The signature forged, according to the law, that is, there's no order to pay. So if the bank pays a check via signatures altered or signatures forged, then the paying bank is liable for the true owner of the check. So that's why the risk is high when you're paying a check. So therefore, there are a number of certain practices developed by over the period of time by the bankers to overcome the certain situations. Okay, it serves as secure option since hard cash is not involved during the transfer process. Hence, the fear of loss of or threat is minimized. Right. So last week, check is like a cash, like cash. So say a currency note. It can be transferred. It can be given to anybody whoever having this check in hand. He's the legal owner of the check. He's the legal owner of the check. That's a second bill of exchange always defines. Okay. So to pay to payment in due course. We call this payment in due course. So what are the legal relationship between the paying banker and the customer? It's a contract it has with the customer drawer to pay according to the mandate. Then the authority. I said it's a mandate, authority, or it's a contract. It's a law of contract applies. The impact of bill of exchange ordinance protection given to paying banker under section 60 of the bill of exchange ordinance. Now the sections very important and carefully read and understand. Very important three sections we were discussing about this paying and collecting. Collecting banker, section 82 of bill of exchange ordinance. Paying banker, section 60 and section 80 of ordinance. Right? Section 60, very important part, that is where how to pay, it is given. The protection to the paying banker under the bill of exchange ordinance is when a bill payable to order on demand is drawn on a banker and banker on whom it is drawn pays the bill in good faith. Right? And in the ordinary course of business, only two sectors, where the collecting bank has to fulfill 4 requirements in good faith, without negligence, for a customer, a cross check. Okay, there are 4 requirements, legal requirements are there in collecting a check. When payment of a check, only needed to, in good faith, in the ordinary course of business, that is that the business hours you have to pay. If you are paid out of the business hours, then you are not paid according to, you are not getting the protection given on the bill of exchange ordinance. Right? Therefore, it is not the incumbent on the banker to show that the endorsement of a payee or any subsequent endorsement was made by or under authority of a person whose endorsement it purports to be and bank is deemed to be have paid the bill in due course, although such endorsement has been forged or made without authority. Now, last week we discussed what is this endorsement. Right? Since the endorsement, the endorsement, looking at the endorsement, who is making the endorsement? The endorsement is made by the true owner or true owner of the check. At the has to be confirmed in the collective responsibility. So what is the paying banker responsibility is if there's an order check, if it's an order check, there should be endorsement according to the practices of the bank. Legal requirements are there. Then according to the practices of the bank, that check has to be endorsed. Who has been endorsed with the payee or somebody else? That is not a matter for paying banker. That's a responsibility of the collecting banker. See whether payee has been endorsed. After the first endorsement, last week we discussed this carefully. After the first endorsement, that order check becomes a bearer check. After an order check becomes a bearer check. After being bearer check, there's no need for endorsement. It can be merely transferred. We discussed last section 33 of the Bill of Exchange Ordinance, like a bearer check. Right? So therefore, payee's endorsement, or after that, payee has given this check to some negotiator with somebody else. After negotiation, it has been placed by the whoever who have placed the endorsement for transaction. It is not a matter to look into the paying banker. Whenever it came to the desk of the payment, then bank has to pay it. Paying bank has to pay it. That is, the paying bank is the bank of the customer drawer. Paying bank is the drawer of the customer. Right? There are certain legal changes taken place with the new technologies development and new practices. Certain legal principles has been now changed. Under, I told you last week, under Great Western Railway Company case, it was decided that check has to be presented for payment for the particular branch of the bank it has been issued. As a customer, the drawer is which bank, which branch the customer's account is maintained. To that bank only had to present for payment. Okay. Now, with the change of banking system, with introducing instead of branch banking, uni-bank system, that is one bank, and there's no branches. Branches are now we call as sales outlets. Right? There's no branch banking system now in the present system. It is one bank and its sales outlets. Therefore, check issued by any sales outlet can be paid at any sales outlet. Okay. Any check issued from any sales outlet, any branch has been, well, for term you use branch, can be paid at any bank, any branch. Okay. If it's a bearer cash check, a cash check can be paid at any bank. If it's a cross check, right? It's a cross check, then the position changes. If it's a cross check, it's a collected check by a collecting banker, then it has to be paid by the relevant branch or the sales outlet of the bank. In other words, if you're collecting a cross check, it's a collected payment, it has to be routed through Lanka Clear to the paying banker for the payment. So last week we discussed this flow, how it is going to the paying banker and paying that. Okay, so therefore cross checks, still the payment has to be made at the particular branch or the outlet of the bank. Right? So making of the decision of paying or not is lying on the branch where the customer has opened the account. He is the person who decided whether to pay the check or not. So therefore, that particular bank or branch outlet will be responsible for any payment which has not been legal or valid. So therefore, the Bill of Exchange Ordinance, this application, section 60, goes like that. There's another clause, section 80, which is going along with the section 82. So section 82 is for the collecting banker. Section 80 is for the paying banker, where the banker on whom a cross-check is drawn, right? Who's the banker? That is a branch outer we discussed now. On whom a cross-check is drawn. That means the drawee is the paying banker. In good faith and without negligence pays it. Right? The paying banker, if they are paid in good faith and without negligence, if cross generally to the banker, whoever deposited the check, whoever collected the check, had to pay the check if it is a general crossing. If cross special crossing, what is special cross? Where the customer limited by a crossing, including a bank's name inside the crossing. Then we call that as a special crossing. If the cross specially to the banker to whom it's crossed, right? To the banker to whom it's crossed, or his agent for collection, right? So if a check is crossed for some bank, that particular bank can only collect that check, right? If that who is his agent, being a banker, the bank paying the check, and if the check has come into the hands of the payee, the drawer shall respectively entitled to rights to be placed in the same position of the payment of a check has been made through order thereof. Now there is one clause here included here in this section, a crossed or his agent for collection to a banker to whom is crossed. Now I gave the example last week. The check is crossed for Hatton National Bank. So any Hatton National Bank branch check and send to the paying bank for collection to pay and collect the proceed. If it's crossed for Hatton National Bank Candy branch, then it has to be collected only at Hatton National Bank Candy. So the paying bank is only verifying whether the check has been collected by the particular bank. Okay. Then what is this? His agent for collection. His agent for collection. There are to whom the check can be collected. We discussed this last week. And previous sessions also I mentioned about this opening of conducting of accounts. I discussed this matter very clearly. Yeah. We call this a customer who is a customer having a current account in a bank. That is current account has only in commercial banks. Commercial bank. Now, what is the position if a check is collected by a specialized bank or a finance company? Specialized bank or a finance company? Another position. The check can be especially what you call cross to even for a specialized bank. For example, National Savings Bank. It's a specialized bank. It's not a commercial bank. So NSB or Salasa Bank and all these specialized banks does not have a seat to be clear the checks in the Lanka clearing system. They are not members of the clearing system. Therefore, they had to go through a commercial bank. So all the banks, specialized banks, as well as finance companies, has to maintain a current account on behalf of them in the commercial bank. In any commercial bank can open account. Right. Through that commercial bank only, check has to be collected. Okay. Now, the collecting bank, the commercial bank, does not know anything about the customer or his endorsement. Customer or his endorsement, anything, the collecting banker does not know anything about that. Therefore, it is a duty of the bank who have been collected the check has to certify that before we presented for a collection to the commercial bank. So the commercial bank is acting as an agent for that particular specialized bank. For example, for the People's Bank, we say, so People's Bank collecting NSB, checks collected by the NSB as a agent for collection. So that is that protection still available to the NSB through People's Bank, for example. Okay, if the bank is maintained with the Bank of Ceylon, through Bank of Ceylon. Any other bank, Ceylon Bank, through Ceylon Bank. So NSB can collect check, Sarasa Bank can collect check, any other specialized bank can collect checks. They are sales collectors. And they have to deposit the check to one of the commercial bank, and the agent who's collecting the check for a other bank, right? Then all the precautions and whatever we discussed under section 82 applies in the same manner. Good faith without negligence, a cross check for a customer. Right? Now, for a customer, it is the customer is becoming now the commercial bank through agent principal rule. That's why we discussed last week. A check cannot be collected for a what you call savings account, or check can be collected for a specialized bank. They are not bankers, according to Bill of Exchange Ordinance, to collect checks. Therefore, they had to go through this agent as commercial bank. So therefore, all the responsibilities of collecting bank lies with them, and the word all this collecting for a customer, then the agent principal rule applies. How the legally transfers that. So under agent principal rule, agent is the commercial bank collecting on behalf of the customer of the commercial specialized bank. How it has been legally interpreted. How it has been legally interpreted. Okay, so practice we are doing certain things, but we should know what is the legal background of this transaction. Right? So in discussing, there are certain responsibility for collecting a check by a non-commercial bank and clearing to a commercial bank. There are a number of things to be followed. That has to be whatever legal requirement for a collecting bank. Same thing applies to the specialized bank also as a agent relationship. Okay, right. What are the other the section 82 of the Bill of Protection Shield given for collecting bank? Under Bill of Exchange Orders, protection is given for paying bank as well as the collecting bank under section 68 and 82 in paying and collecting checks for customers. So I'll go together. Protection for paying banks are when the paying bank pays a check where an endorsement has been forged. The endorsement is not placed by the drawee, payee. Endorsement has been made by the payee, but somebody else. It is not the paying banker to look into who has made the endorsement. But only one thing we can do, but we'll discuss that therefore, the responsibility of the collecting banker in a check is endorsed. That endorsement has to be certified or guaranteed. When it's certified or guaranteed, then paying banker will pay the check, make payment to the check without looking the endorsement is now lying at the collecting banker. Paying banker has to look with there should be endorsement if it's needed, whether the endorsement is in the accepted mode. The accepted mode, whether it has been there. Those two has to be established. Okay. So therefore, paying bank are not responsible for the endorsement. It has been responsible for the collecting bank. So the collecting bank has to, therefore, any endorsement should give a certification or a guarantee. We'll discuss that a little later. What are these guarantees? During the ordinary course of business, and if the bank is made the payment of good faith without negligence during the course of business, right? If the check is, for example, if you take a cash check, I'll give this example last week also. There's a cash check bought. Okay? Cash check bought. It is not paid at the course of the business. That is why you say your bank is open 8:30 to 3 o'clock. If the check is paid after 3 o'clock over the counter, then the protection available under Section 60 of the Bill of Exchange Order not to the paying bank. So paying bank is responsible payment of that check. Any damages or anything happens to drawer, bank is liable. Right? Now, last week I discussed this, how the negligence part coming with the bank. If it's collected. Now this is a cash check. A collecting bank are collected, it is in the course of, now there's no clearing system, only one clearing system will be available. Right? So therefore, it has to be presented in the same manner. Right? So therefore, even a cash check, the same procedure, cash check, issued to a customer by the drawer, like the customer, to give a check for a payment after 3 o'clock. So the invoice has been created, time of the invoice is placed there, of 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Good relationship with the bank, and the customer comes and asks for a cash. So you over the counter, you pay the cash after closing the business. This thing can happen. It's happening. Right? So what is the responsibility of the paying banker now? He is not getting the protection on the bill of exchange. For now, what will happen if the drawer has set aside of money to pay another check which is coming in the clearing, right? It is coming in the clearing in the midnight, right? If that check, right, and return that check, then wrongful dishonor of the check, bank is liable. That particular check which has been presented for payment through clearing has to be returned due to the payment of this cash check on the previous day once. So the clearing system we discussed last time, can you remember how it operates? What time the closing business for a day? It's 12 o'clock midnight. So process starts at 12 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, after 12 o'clock, funds should be in the account for making payment. It's a legal side. Okay, right. So if this check has to be returned, then they will be responsible. Customer may deposit the cash for the particular cash check issued in the previous day, the following day, not in the early morning. He comes and deposit after 10 o'clock. By the time the bank has already returned the check presented to the clearing without for lack of funds, because funds have gone for fetching. So bank is liable. Negligence in payment means paying a check not for the payee, somebody else. For example, there's a payee mentioned as a company name or association name. The name of association. If he's paid for percent for payment, without verifying the true owner, if you are paid, you are liable for negligence. For example, if account pay check, account pay only check, presented for payment, and check has been collected by third party, not the payee, somebody else. Maybe if account payee only check, right, drawn in favor of a business name, right, the company, limited liability company name, and it has been endorsed and paid, collected by a director of the company. If you pay that check, you are liable for negligence, even though the company has been endorsed. To pay the check to director, you are liable, because in the practice we cannot do that. Okay, so where a bank pays a cross check, there's a cross check. It's a requirement. We told you just last. In good faith, without negligence, in accordance with the crossing, he is protected from the true owner of the check, even though payment has been obtained by an unauthorized person. Unauthorized person has to fraud the endorsement and taken the money. Paying bank is not responsible. As the collecting bank is responsible for collecting that check. So this protection, you have to understand what's the protection paying bank is getting and how this protection is getting, what are the things can be happen. We discuss that part. Right, over. Then we discussed there are two types of payment we are making in the banks. One is the cash checks, uncrossed cash checks over the counter, cash payments, uncrossed checks, then checks with crossing open checks. Okay, two types of checks can be paid over the counter. Now, certain practices here in our banks in Sri Lanka, which is not legal, we have to discuss that. Now, uncrossed checks, of course, no question about that. Uncrossed is called open check over the counter. Anybody who is presenting that check over the counter, bank is liable. Right? Cashing a check between these three things. So I'll come back to that. Cashing a check means that you will be offered cash in hand. One can simply walk away with a complete amount of the payment and spend that money as per his or her requirement without any restriction. When uncrossed check is presented for payment, cash at the counter of the bank, the presenter should sign the reverse of the check. Right. We'll say uncrossed check. So first we'll discuss the method of payment, cash checks. Whenever cash check is, this is the function of a teller, right? So banker will, overall banker, teller is the representative of the bank. So whatever action of the teller, bank is liable. Okay, as employee of the bank. So teller in the counter, whenever customer make a request for a payment check, customer mean whoever present the check, not the drawer. Can be drawer, drawer the customer, he himself can present the check, uncrossed check for cash, or else anybody else, he can endorse and give to third party, the third party can for payment. So whoever present for payment is available if the check face of it, statutory features, date, the payee's name or cash, if it's a bearer check or order check, check that, amount in words and figures, and the signature. It's correct, we have to pay over the counter. Now, certain practices are there today in our new generation without knowing the legal side of this. So the certain practices, certain banks have been developed certain practices which may not accept it, but any customer can challenge it anytime. Now, when you take this present of payment, we take signatures. On the face of it, there's a one signature. Okay. When check is presented for payment, there's another, we ask for another signature on the reverse. right? Whenever you are making payment, you take another signature on the reverse. Right. Now, what are the legal impact of these three signatures? It can, if the grower comes or the bank customer comes, all three signatures are same person. Right? If a third party comes, face of the check is the drawer signature. On the reverse, the person who presented the payment. Right. First question is, at what time should this second and third signature be placed? Yeah? Somebody? Take a physical class, anything in the Okay. So first signature has to be placed in front of the teller, in front of the teller, by the person who presenting the check, not the drawer. Whoever presenting the check has to be place the signature. What is the legal impact of that signature? Right? Whenever a person tendering a check for payment, when you teller receives that, first thing teller will endorse, place a rubber stamp, sign by present and signs that. What does it mean? That check has to be signed in presence of the teller. In other words, legally, if any fraudulent transaction taken place, if this check is produced for courts, and you will be called for give evidence in front of courts that you saw this customer place this signature in front of you. That's a certification given, putting the rubber stamp and you place your signature on there. Teller is responsible for that signature. Okay. Then the second signature is for collection of cash. That is the receipt. The second signature is the receipt. Receipt for the collection. Now, comes here. Most of the customers who present the checks for payments place two signatures at once and give to you. Asan dekha maga hal dena ekapara receipt. Right? Now, I told legally liable. Why? You have to identify the person who have been presented the check. You don't know who has signed that check. Whether sometimes you may find certain customers sign the check, his signature is there, the signature is order for payment, and he signs on the reverse also, and two signatures, your person gives that. Okay, two signatures, and discuss going to be legal sequences, right? Now, customer or the drawer is all three signatures. First signature on the front, order, second signature, third signature, all signature placed once and given to you. When you pay this check to the person who presented the check without verifying the signature. Now, after some time, the customer may come up and complain, say that check has been stolen from him. The check has been stolen from him, and it has been cashed. Now, what is your position? Because the first signature, yes, certified, whether this is customer's signature, signed in my presence, but check has presented by somebody else. So, the protection under Bill of Exchanges Act will not be given to you. You are liable for the payment, for the true order. Okay. So always keep in mind, though the tellers have a program for tellers also. First thing, even though customer signs and brings a check, present for payment, you get his signature in front of you and place your signature, and you are take the responsibility of the seeing the customer. Customer mean who presented the check. I am using the word. Who is the presenter of the check. You identify. Then when you are paying the check also, cash, you have to identify you are paying for the same person. We had a practice of those days when you joined the bank. We were told our senior people, whenever check is signed and given to us, to get the second signature, fold the check leaf, covering the first signature, and give that to the counter to the person who present the check to place the signature. If it's a fraudulent person, the fraud check, he can't put the second signature correctly. He may ask the check to go there and I'll sign and bring it. Don't give it. These are the risks we are having facing the counters. So all the tellers must know the role of the teller. Especially paying checks for third parties, signatures. You are identifying the person who comes and verifying. Number one. Number two, when the cash check is presented for payment, right? Verify the signature with the specimen in the drawer and record it before making payment. You see on the face of it whether check is informations are there. Okay, sufficient informations are there. Then you find that that is name, the date is correct. Within 6 months it has been presented. Pay, this is open check when the pay is not there, name is not there, but is cash for anybody, any if this is open check, anybody who present you can pay. If there's a payee's name is there, okay. If it's a bearer check, again it's open check. Without, if you have not cut the bearer, not made that I order check, then you can, any person can present it, there is no need for endorsement. If it's an order check, then you need endorsement. That's the legal requirement. Endorsement must be section 33 we discussed last week. It should be there to make the payment. Okay. Now the second issue I am bringing you across is when the check legally, when the signature is forged, then the paying bank has no mandate to pay that check. There's no mandate to pay the check. Right? So last week we discussed Greenwood case. Can you remember? Greenwood case, discuss karabi. Greenwood principle, where wife has been fraud the husband's signature. Then when the wife died, husband claimed the money from the bank. So luckily, the forgery taken place with the connivance of by the forgery, where the wife has been fraud the signature, husband no, but not inform the bank. Therefore, under the principle of estoppel, bank has been not liable. But say, if the signature is forged and the signature clearly differs on the specimen, signature metabotic how to verify the signature of the customer. And okay, if the signature is forged, then there's no order to pay, there's no mandate to pay. So bank is liable for the customer. Payment cashier will ask for another signature to be made in presenter at the time of payment. I go third signature, it has to be 3 for an interval. The bank's order do not insist the presence of account holder to make in cash withdrawals in case of bearer checks unless circumstances which warrants bank does take precaution. Okay. That means savings account is only paid for the account holder. Check, whoever present for payment, you have to pay. You can't ask the bearer to come and collect the check. It's not provisions on the bill of exchange ordinance. It's a negotiable instrument. Whoever present, we have to pay. Okay. If the case of a bearer where this check is cut, then it's becoming an ordered check. So therefore, banks make payment of an order check only for confirming the endorsement of the payee and endorses the reverse of the check. So you have to verify that the payee is placing the verification there. Right. Before I come to that, there are certain other things I want to discuss about this. Right. Now, a cash check, right, presented for payment. Can we ask for a identification from the person who presented the check? Right? You are not asking identity card from the drawer. Customer identity card signature is with us, so we can identify the person whom we can be taking. That's why your signature is very important. Signed in my presence. But if it's presented by a third party, it's a duty of the. Normally we ask for an identification. Of course, of over 1,000 rupees, we ask for an NIC from the customer. Now, legally, what's the position in that? Can we ask an identification from a presentator? You can't. Why? Under bill of exchange ordinance, it says it's an unconditional order to pay. It's an unconditional order to pay. Therefore, you can't ask for an identity from the customer, the person who presented. Legally, you are not bound to ask. Okay. It happens to me sometime back when I was working in the counter at Halstorf branch, sometime long time before it's 1970s, late 30s. I was in the Halstorf branch, the counter. So when a check was presented over third party check, presented over the counter, it was only 1,000 rupees check. The presenter was a lawyer. So I asked his identity. So he asked me, under what law you asking this identity? I was just new to the bank, just joined the bank. I don't know head or tail of that. I asked, under what law you asking me identity from me? So I had no answer to that, but later I asked from my senior officer why he asked identity. I got two reasons. Under fraud ordinance, any transaction above 1,000 rupees, right? There should be some verification of the transaction of the people who have been making the transaction. Okay, right? That's one thing. That's why we are. Secondly, in practice of banking, we ask an identity from a third party to pay a check. Reason is to identify to whom the money has been paid. In the case of a fraudulent transaction taken place, to identify the person to whom we have paid the money. For that reason, only we can ask. So the legally, you can't. It's an unconditional order. But in practice, contrary to law, we can ask. Why? Reason is that we have to identify to whom we have paid. In the case of a fraud or fraudulent transaction take place, and the legal case comes, to identify to whom we have paid the check. Right? To get him into involve the case. For example, the check has been fraud, actually, check has been robbed. Large amount. For example, large amount value of check, so open check, or it's called no, it's an older check we say, right? Now, person who make an endorsement on the reverse check that has been stolen. Just normally robberies are taken place, check has been stolen. On the reverse of the check, clearly endorsed recording the requirement about the payee's name and it becoming a bearer check thereafter. Thereafter, a person who offering for the counter to get the cash. Right? After first endorsement, become bearer check. So as a bearer check, he offer the counter and try to collect the money. Collecting. Right? Now police is the customer, the person, owner of the true owner of the check, may enter to the police and giving information about the checks. He may have the checklist or things, right? So police will investigate and find out for the check book, number, everything. So, and we have to produce the check leaves as a what do you call documents of evidence to the courts. Whenever this document of evidence is check is present for payment, the courts, so courts will call you to identify the person. Sometimes police may trace it and get hold of the people, thief, person who stolen the check, and he will be produced to the courts. And you have to identify he took the money. Case prove so therefore it is responsibility of cases keep to understand the gravity of it. Right? Cash payment over the account is not that simple. Okay. Then checks comes to crossing open group checks can be paid. The check is crossed and row have place is in the crossing cancel, pay cash. So crossing cancel without making pay cash. Can we pay that check over the counter? Yeah. Yeah. Uluanda.
Hold on, sir.
Yes, can pay. There are some banks, they are not paying. That's what I will find. Some banks, some practices, they are not paying. Open check given the only for what do you call only for the customer. It's an instrument payable on demand. Whoever person you have to pay. Okay, right. Board pay no that. Board pay no. Can you see the board?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Right. Now, for example, there's a crossing. Right. Simple crossing, sir. This is a general crossing, simple crossing, two parallel lines. If the customer says, pay cash and here's his signature. Now this is a valid crossing cancel. This can be paid over the counter without any hindrance. Only other precaution action will take, identification, everything. Okay, with that you can pay over the counter. You cannot resist of, you cannot ask drawer to come for payment. Right? Only one instant only we can ask for the drawer. Otherwise, yeah, we can any open check we can pay. Right. Now we'll go for this. Account payee. Now what's the position? Account payee only. Check this account payee only. And drawer says crossing cancel, pay cash assigns. Can you pay this check? Can you pay this check? Come on. Earlier you said we can pay. The crossing open check we can pay. Now open the check crossing. So it's a general crossing. It's not a special crossing. Last week we discussed the difference between these two. Right? Can you pay now? We can't pay. Why? Reason? Why the reason? We cancelled only the crossing. Still, account payee only remaining. So account payee means that deposit to account, not pay in cash. Okay, understood? Account payee only for this type of a crossing. If you say all, sometimes say some customers put all crossings. So account payee is not a crossing. Last week we insisted, understood this, we discussed this in detail. Account payee only an instruction to a collect to an account. Therefore, whenever it's presented for payment over the counter to the paying banker, it has to be collected to a payee based account, and even though the crossing cancel, this will be removed. Crossing cancel, what will happen? This will be removed, and still account payee remaining same. So without a crossing, even in the check, without any crossing, open check. For account payee, there should be a payee, right? Account payee means there should be payee in the account. Cash check, if you put account payee, that is a irregular loan check. So irregular, we can't pay. Therefore, the account payee instructions are there. Therefore, it is giving instruction to deposit to an account. Okay. Now, this type of a check crossing, how to clear it? Even though we can, this check can be opened. The check can be opened for payment. So that has to be done. Not all crossings. This has to be between the check in the front for the reverse, front or reverse, account payee instructions and crossing cancel. Okay. Now you can pay the check. Because instruction also cancel, crossing also cancel. Both has to be cancelled. Then you can pay the check. But if this type of a crossing opening check, payee has to be certified on the reverse of the check by the drawer. Okay? Drawer has to certify on the reverse of the check that give the payee's name Mr. A.B.D. Silva, right? Please pay cash, account payee crossing cash on the front of sorry. Please pay cash to Mr. A.B.D. Silva. Sometimes signature can be verified. Whose signature is below can certify, customer can certify, or even his NIC number and your certification. If such type of opening, we can pay over the counter. Okay, such type of opening, we may be able to pay over the counter. Clear? So let's go back to the discussion. So therefore, crossing open checks we can pay like a cash check, normal cash check. So we should not ask the drawer to come for payment of check. No, it's an unconditional order given by the customer, the drawer, to pay over the counter at any time it present for payment, right? Then, so I discussed about the cash check payment. What are the importance of the signature? Why should pay the second signature important? What is the importance of that? I guess some cases legally we are found guilty with such instances. To identify the signature, it's not illegal. Asking for identity card or any other document of identity, it's not uh, warrant according to law. But in practice, we ask for it to prevent the frauds and we get to identify the person. Therefore, we ask for identity. Now, in practice, most of the people know that, but sometimes you may find certain some lawyers say, I will either have done of parts. So that you should know how you are doing that, right? In case of bareboat check, is right. Cash payment where pays name written as self, ourself, pay cash, etc. It is a convention that companies and organizations, while withdrawing cash from their bank, write ourselves in place of pay's name. Sometimes may want to be someone දකින්න පුළුවන් instead of a paying name, pay to ourselves, right? May සාමාන්‍යයෙන් companies they write for salary checks. We pay salaries to withdraw salary for large amount of cash. May write the check ourselves, and it's order. Ourselves order that we order given for ourselves to pay ourselves is order. It is not a bearer check, but there's no crossings or crossings open. We can pay ourselves. Sometimes there are certain legal repercussions are coming up. Sometimes even the check may be should pay cash. That is common. Is no problem. If the payee there's a payee, like the cash is okay. Now sometimes the problem comes. There are certain companies, even certain people, they are having printed crossing stamps. Yeah, printed crossing checks. Checks are issued in some banks with a printed crossing, not negotiable printed crossing. I showed you last week one of my checks. I have signed some checks for certain payments. I keep that checks crossed and not negotiable with a crossing printed. So those checks are order checks. So if you want, the customer can use those checks for take cash over the counter. Cross check taking customer cross check taking customer cash kanna puluwa. They can take cash. There in their right, the name is self. Right? Not ourself, self, not pay cash. If you may pay cash, the check is irregularly drawn because there can be cash and order. There should be some sort of a payee. So you can write as payee, either your name or yourself. Customer can write himself, his name or self. Then becoming order to self. After that, he opened the crossings. Crossing open normally data, crossing cancel, pay cash. Then that check can be paid to the customer only. Drawer only, not for third parties. Because ourself is the drawing. Pay is the ourself. Okay. So bank have been making cash payment of such checks to person who present at the counter without any hassle. This is a practice in the banks. However, nowadays it is learned that some banks branches refuse the payment of insist to write self instead of ourselves. Then what is technically rekatino? The logic for such refusal is that entity where a company, firm, or any other organization is a legal person, entity, open the account and not a group of people. If it's a limited liability company, those a draw a company, right? Not an individual person, entity. Moreover, cash payment can be made only to a single person and not a group of people against a single check. Right? මේ argument point එක තමයි මේ lawyers කියලා legal case එක ලාභ case එක right ourselves කියන check එකකට pay කරන්න බෑ මොකද පුද්ගලයන් නෙවෙයි පුද්ගල රාශියක් ඉන්නවා ourselves කියන එකට කීප දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා එහෙනම් to whom we are going to pay the check can be only for one person or the account. Therefore writing of ourselves is should not be customer should not tell that shouldn't write ourselves, make self. Then one person can take the money. Right? Many people question validity of such refusal by the bank when bearer check payable to ourselves is present for payment. So bearer check එකට උනත් ඒක question එකක් ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. Legally speaking, banks are bound to pay to any person who presents the bearer check for a payment at the bank counter if the check is presented otherwise in order. This is a legal position. Whichever අපි කතා කරේ මෙන්න මේ point එකට එන්න. Legally speaking, banks are bound to pay any person who presents a bearer check for payment at the bank counter if the check presented otherwise in order. Nowhere in Negotiable Instrument Act is actually in Sri Lanka is not that. It is ordinance prohibits the payment of a check where payer's name is mentioned as ourselves. Furthermore, an order check payable to unidentified payee, if an order check payable to an unidentified payee, banks are in order if pay the check account holder, right? Account holder unidentified payee none. Therefore, the order checks payable to God, temple, church, masjid, etc. are considered as unidentified payees. සවාල් පන්සල නම්බර ලියන්න පුළුවන් විහාරස්ථාන ලියන්න පුළුවන් කෝවිලකට church එකට ලියන්න පුළුවන්. එතන cash ගෙවන්න බෑ ඒ checks වලට. Okay? When a check endorsed in blank by the drawer, even order check becomes a bearer check. This was discussed earlier also. Endorse, when the check is ordered, make endorsement on the reverse of the check, it is becoming a bearer check. So the check bearing company seal the signatures of authorized person on its back, treated as a bearer check. Thus, the cash payment can be made to bearer of the check irrespective of payee name. Now, this is the law, right? If it's a check payable to a company or I say a business organization or a NGO or a welfare society, when on the reverse of it, there's a rubber stamp of that organization, an office bearer, chairman or president who somebody signs the check, right? It considered legally valid endorsement. Considered legally valid endorsement. Therefore, after that endorsement, that check becomes a bearer checks, open checks. And it can be presented for payment over the counter and it has been paid. This was a practice in the past. But now, bankers have been more. Now we are at the bankers now taking certain precautionary action regarding this opening of what do you call this type of endorsements. The presenter has no sign on the reverse of the check. The presence of the cashier as an acknowledgement having received the cash. By convention, we also insist the presenter to write his name, address, and phone number whenever face presents a check for payment. This is the person requirement. We ask for details. As per law, a bearer check is always a bearer check. Bearer check is always a bearer check. However, when a check is drawn up in favor of a business entity, a check is purported to have the crossing effect. Bank cannot afford to make payment of such checks without proper inquiry, as it may later are deemed to as negligence on the part of the bank. Okay, now present practice is if a check is drawn in favor of a company, business organization, clubs and societies, and for an organization, right? These checks cannot be paid over the counter. Even though they put the rubber stamp on the reverse and make it endorsement, normally banks are not, in as a practice, not paying these checks over the counter. No cash payment. It has to be deposited to account. It has to be deposited to account. Otherwise, bank is found guilty for negligence. Okay. Then if the depositor is unable to write, as she must call the bank personally to withdraw the money from its account. In case of aged or bedridden person, bank depute a person or an official at depositor's cost to obtain a signature thumb impression of the newly witness. Now this is in practice we do. If the person, the drawer, even for savings account, it can be applied. Right? But illiterate person, he used to get thumb impression. Okay, in front of a bank officer, then we bank officer to certify his thumb impression is placed in front of me. Left hand thumb impression placed in front of me. Right. Then, if he's bedridden or a person who have been severely sick, we have seen sometimes the people sometimes withdraw money, large amount of money comes account. The patient will be brought to the bank in a vehicle or in a wheelchair or in an ambulance. So a bank officer has to go there, fill the forms, withdrawal form, and get their thumb impression or signature and certify that in front of another officer that some thumb impression was placed in front of me and we may pay the money. Practically, we have to do this when it comes to bedridden persons. Right? So this is all about the payment of cash checks. What else we have to discuss about payment of cash checks over the counter? So the practice after paying certain practices, we are there. We have to normally tell us that there's a teller's role about the payment of checks, right? Now the importance of payment of a check is earlier when a checks is made a payment, the risk is now with the teller's risk I'm going to talk about. Earlier, when a check is made, presented for payment and paid, there are a number of people involved in the transaction. The teller or the cashier accept the check, go through the check, and enter into a what you call a register, and send that to the ledger department, ledger section. And the ledger clerk will again go through and check the stock payments and the name is okay. And he enter the check into the ledger sheet. Then it gives to the officer. An officer will go through again, verify the signature, verify the face of the statutory requirement of the checks are there. And in order, he put the place pay cash stamp and authorize the payment. After they come back to the teller will pay. Now this transaction, there are 4 people involved in the past before this technology is developed. Before the technologies came, there are 4 people involved in this transaction. Therefore, if any error goes and if anything happens, immediately can be detected. Why? There are 4 people involved there. But today, what is the new technology development? The teller is handling all 4 functions at the same time. Accept the check, go through the check physically, and verify the endorsement, verify the signature, and then check with the ledger, open the screen, check the ledger. So ledger cost function is doing now. See the name and account number, the name and account plus person's signature, verify the signature by himself. If it's okay, he verifies the signature. Then, right, he posts the check into the system. That the ledger posting part is completing. Once the ledger posting is done, then he is going to pay the cash. So he pay the cash. So the 4 function is handling. In between, there's no person to monitor or check the transaction. Therefore, if you make the mistake, or say for example, make a mistake, overpayment or underpayment. Underpayment means mostly very rare underpayments are going. But most of the cases we find that there are overpayments are going on. Then you are responsible for that. Okay. Then posting of a incorrect check. For example, you may find there are certain customers in the check leaf. Bank's logo is there on the left hand corner. A certain customer very what you call local horu. They put two parallel lines. It is not large, big, very tiny 2 parallel lines. It inside the bank's logo, so you can't see that. If you paid that check over the counter, later he may sue the bank, saying that you have paid for a cross check and therefore a bank can fine for negligence. So earlier 4 people were looking at that. Now only you are looking at 1 person who are in the counter teller. So the cash payment checks are important, but find out what are the things to be looked at. Right. Then we go for the payment of collection checks. Collection checks. Now, before this Truncation and Settlement Act, Settlement and Payment and Settlement Act 2005 was introduced, checks were presented for payment manually. For example, collecting bank collect the checks. He is not verify the checks. Just collect the check. It is put in the schedule. Right? All the checks are scheduled and sent to Lanka Clear. Okay. Sorry, before that, collect it and sort it. So according to the banks, different bank, is sorted and scheduled differently. There are different clearing systems where there. 2-day clearing, 5-day clearing, 7 days clearing, local clearing. What are these for clearing system? 1-day clearing, 2-day clearing. Today deposit, tomorrow, no, day after tomorrow, check will be. So on the Colombo Metropolitan, that's called Metropolitan clearing, 1-day clearing. All the branches all the banks and branches in the Metropolitan clears check within 1 day. Those say we have clearing house for the Lanka Clear, clearing house at Central Bank, 9th floor. So we have to take the check personally and to clear. The second lot is 3-day checks are outer Colombo checks. This goes up to Alisavela, this side Panadura, and this Gampaha and Nigambua called outer Colombo circle. All the checks, banks under outer Colombo, again sorted separately and schedule separate. Then comes 5-day clearing. That's outstation branches. Similarly, those are sorted separately. Banks, separate bank, and scheduled. From schedule. Then 7 day scholar, extremely far away branches. That is Jaffna, Trinco, likewise far away. Monaragala, Ampara, Meticulo, those branches are far away branches. So clearing time takes 7 days. That means, right, once you've taken the checks, physically, Central Lanka clear. So the Lanka clear, your checks are coming to your bank and physically you post these checks, right? It's not Lanka clear. It is physically you post the checks for clearance. So clearing checks you deposit at Lanka clear or Lanka clear so clearing house. So clearing house will physically send the check to that bank. It's not actually physically. Those checks have been, the clearing house, there's a big table, large table, it's called long table. The long table representative of all the banks. Representative of all the banks are coming there. Those days we had 11 banks. So there are 14 or 15 clearing officers are coming there with the checks. And they are, what you call, exchange the checks. Each bank's checks exchange. The representative will collect from all other banks relating to their bank checks. For example, the People's Bank. So all the other banks, collecting bank, giving their checks to the People's Bank. People's Bank giving all other checks to their banks. So it will be the clearing house sorted. Then it will be bring back about 10 o'clock all the checks and physically send the checks to in the post, by the post, to the relevant branch. Now, paying banker getting this check, physically getting the check, right? Once physically you get the check, you can wait till the check customer deposits for the check, and you make the payment. After that, the payment means you are debiting the customer's account, and then the check will be held at you, and there's a small note, collection note, will be sent back to the collecting banker. It will go to the collecting banker. So, right. Now that system moves. Once the collecting bank checks receipt comes, you do after 3 days or 4 days. If there are any specific check returns, again go back to clearing house, and clearing house will give back to the collecting banker, and collecting banker will inform the depositor that check has been returned. A physical check with a note, it will be returned. So this is the physical check movement. With the introduction of this new payment and clearing system, truncation system, there's no physical movement of the check. Now, presently, after 2006, there's no physical movement of a check. So collecting bank will collect the check, scan the check, electronically it was sent through Lanka Clear to your bank. We discussed last week how the Lanka Clear operates. It comes to. So the check will be in your, that will be your bank, your branch. At 12 o'clock midnight, your account has been debited. If funds are not available, it was pending. You have to take a decision. Right? If the checks are, the funds are available, immediately it's going debited. The following day morning, you get about 2 hours time, go through this system, what are the checks presented for payment, and any check you find technically errors, stale checks, words and figures wrong, signature differs, right? Processing stamp not there. These are called technical errors. So this check can be returned back to the collecting bank, right? Through Lanka Clear. As it's called settlement clearing. Send back to Lanka Clear. Lanka Clear will informed that the checks have been dishonored and debited the collective banker's account and generated the note called check return note. We'll discuss that next after tea, how this operates. Then, whatever checks funds are not available, now there's a requirement according to the Sankey Settlement Act. Funds should be available to pay the check whole, to pay the whole check, not a part of the check, at the time of check is presented for payment. It's a legal requirement. So at what the time which is being required payment given, we'll discuss it later. What is the legal repercussion with that? And what is the problem we are having at the moment? Practical problems we are having with the paying bank and the collecting banker with certain practices. Right. So this is a clear. Therefore, payment, the physical checks are appearing on our screen, right? By the what have collected by all the banks in Sri Lanka within 1 day it comes. So now today's clearing system was 1 day plus T plus 1, time plus 1 day clearing. Wherever which part of the country clears within 1 day. Very quick. On the there are two types of checks we are collecting: same bank checks, other bank checks. If we get our own bank checks, like for example, here, Sampat Bank. So Sampat Bank, Borella branch gets the customer deposits a check, right? Customer deposits a check, which the check is Sampat Bank Moratuwa branch. The Borella branch, Sampat Bank Moratuwa branch check is deposited. So end of the day, Borella branch go to the poster to the ledger. This is one bank I told you, there's no branch out there. Straight away debited the account at Moratuwa branch and created to customer of the Borella branch. Same day. It's called transfer checks. Same bank checks we call transfer checks. Right. Now the question comes, same bank checks, if the funds are not available to pay that check, for example, Borella branch check is going to post, we find that Moratuwa branch customer's account funds are not available. What's the option available? According to law, funds are not available, you have to return the check. This is Great Western Railway Company case, this decision. Called Great Western Railway Company decision is customer should make available funds to pay the whole check and the time. Or an arrangement should be made to pay that check. That if you are asking for OD, should be a prior arrangement has to be made. Not the arrangement after check has been made present for payment. So you can't make a stop payment for a check after check is made present for payment. You can't stop it. So again, systemic acceptance. Similarly, cash should deposit value. No, but now banks have been on a manual system part still they are in the payment system. If a customer but according to the law, money should be available at 2 o'clock midnight to pay the check in whole. If a check return ke liye unknown, one of the technical errors health checks. Okay, so the collective bankers is responsible to look into the technical side of it, except for the signature. Verification of signature is the paying bankers' duty. Right. So therefore, now the checks, cash check deposited, transfer check is deposited, Sampat Bank, Moratuwa branch check deposited at the Kolpiti branch. Now we say, Kolpiti branch, the Moratuwa branch accounts funds are not available. First thing, either we have returned that check, saying that lack of funds. They don't the customer. We can return the check to customer. Funds are not available. You can make the endorsement RD and return it. Or else, if you want to find out, without take that decision by corporate branch, foreign branch is a collecting bank, won't take responsibility. So that check also can be sent under the clearing arrangement with a normal clearing. Scan the check, send without the clearing, let the paying banker decide whether to pay to that check or not. Because collecting banker should not take the responsibility overpay the check. But what is the practice now? Most of the banks do this practice. What is that? Check එක තියාගෙන check එකේ පොඩි fax copy එකක් අරගෙන යවනවා paying bank එකට. ගෙවන්න දෙපාති කියලා. ඒකනේ කරන්නේ. And the funds are not available for checks. Even the cash check do just the same thing. සල්ලි නැත්තම් මොකද කරන්නේ? paying bank එකට යවන check එක ඒකේ photocopy එකක් ඒ check එකට ගෙවන්න දෙපාති කියලා අහලා. හරි? Uncle, this is a wrong practice. Funds are not available, it has to be returned. I heard in the habit. Right. Paying banker, you tell that to the collecting bank, the new paying banker, funds are not there. Where branch banking branch. Payment, the responsibility of paying the check is where the account is maintained. Okay, so Roy Bank. Roy Bank now say manager says, okay, who's the customer? Right? So other bank, same other branch, check making the check payment, overdrawing the account. Who have overdrawn? Morella branch have customer is can Morella branch manager can take a decision about the customer of Morocco branch. සමහරවිට දැන් අර ෆොටෝකොපි යවන ටැක්ස් කොපි එක ඉන්ඩෝස් කරලා එවනවා. Well and good document evidence එකක් තියෙනවා. You can have the responsibility done. If that check payment as particular Morocco branch customer default that payment, check එක OD කරලා ගෙවුවා ඒකට සල්ලි දැම්මේ නැහැ deposit කරේ නැහැ. Over payment එක. දැන් කවුද responsible? And whose delivery of that has been paid? Roy Bank, some other branch. So you are responsible for it because under your password, check has been authorized. I told this is one bank, unique bank. There's no branches. Okay, so these are some of the practical issues we are come across in acting this in banks. So if the same bank checks, transfer checks, funds are available, you can post it. If funds are not available, best thing is to send it by clearing in the cash side. If it's a cash check, you can decide either to post or return the check. Right? The returning means you should not give the check back to the customer without any check return note. In other words, without a remark, you can't return. Check එක ඉස්සන්න අපි පොත කෙන්ට කරලා check the remark එක දාලාමයි දෙන්නේ. දැන් practice එකක් තියෙන නිකන් ඔය check එක දෙනවා that's a check the remark. ඒතර customer කෙනෙක් check the remark එක දුන්නා මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඒ customer එක bad customer කෙනෙක් නම් it is not getting recorded. Today there's a requirement by the crib. If a check returns are there for RD, it has to be reported to crib. And we cash check go the account නිකන් දෙනකොට record එක ගන්න crib එකේ report වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So that customer is a good customer forever. Other bad customer getting bad customer getting clearing check character notes. Correct. Correct. Practice. So these are some of the practices we are at the moment we are having, which is not actually acceptable. They are not acceptable. Okay. Now, okay. Then there's a practice of late return. I discussed some uh, some practices are there going in the banking system now. To what extent those are acceptable, legal? Right? Okay. Shall we have a small break? Come. We'll break. Shall we start? Hello, shall we start?
Yeah, start.
Okay. Right. Then this is one of the very technical and some practice in the moment, especially paying bankers. What is this late return? Now, check is presented for payment over clearing house. You get the image of the check as a banker. So, paying bank has to take if some funds are not available, it has to be automatically returned. You don't need to return it, it automatically returns. Right? System will reject it. But if you may sometimes think that customer will pay, make a deposit, you wait till the last minute customer to come and pay, deposit the money. Or sometimes you may try to give a temporary facility by the way of a casual overdraft. By the way of a casual overdraft. This was a temporary overdraft. There's no request for the customer, written request for the customer. There's no agreement with the customer. So you try to give a overdraft. Okay, if you think that you overpay the checks and create overdraft, then check may be passed or that will be responded. It will be returned. But in practice, sometimes some managers our customers comes and tells managers I'll deposit before 10 o'clock. So you wait till 10 o'clock to honor the check till the customer comes and deposit. This is completely wrong. I told you, according to Rankesh Act, money should be available at the time of present the checks for payment. Right? So normally check return, therefore, they have to return the check for RD. But we managers sometimes waiting till the customer comes and deposits. Now this system was there in the manual operating system. Why? Physical check was with us. We were waiting till the customer comes and deposit. The customer not deposited. So system will auto run. You return the physical check in marking the check return note, or not the note, actually, the remark on the check. Check return remark on the check, and directly you send the check to the collecting bank. Because already system has been already closed, shut down, you can't enter into the system thereafter. Now what is the position? There's no physical check with us. So when the customer not deposited money, the managers think that after 10 o'clock, customer not deposited, immediately decide to return this check. By the time system has shut down, okay, right, closed down, the time out, that means before 10 o'clock, if I not return any checks, system will auto runs as deemed to be paid. Now this check has been deemed to be paid. Why? The return has not gone to the system. check return has not gone to the system. If it gone to the system, collecting banker's system, they can generate check return note, CRA. Section 35 of the Bill of Settlement and Payment Act. It's there, but it's instead of a physical check return note will be created by the system, and whatever remarks you have put will be there. Technical return by the return in remarks were there in the system, and system will generate a CRA, check return note. After 10 o'clock, cutoff time is over, system has already run, so you cannot now enter into the system as a paying bank. Now what you have to do, earlier manually you send the check, now there's no check to send back. So you may now using what you call a document under Section 7 of the Transaction Act called check return advice. No, sorry, a note. Check return note. Now this check return note is created by the Lanka Clear. That note actually advice, check return advice, created for where the account has been debited already. Right? The account has been already debited. To reverse that debit item, only this system has this check return the return notice has been created. The check return has been created for that. But when your funds are not available, we use the same check return note to directly send to the collecting bank, but in the manual system, bypassing the Lanka Clear and the system. And we sometimes the bank branch may inform advise the Lanka Clear that this check has been returned to pass the necessary entries. Pass entries when we have returned and send as a late return. Okay. Now, for example, if your case, we'll take case, a check has came for present for payment, funds are not available. Till 10 o'clock, you wait for it. Customer will come to deposit. By 11:30, you decide to return this. You with a late return note, not late return, you send it direct to the collecting banker by fax. In the meantime, you may give a call and to collecting bank and say that this check will be returned. Because one day, clearing system is T+1. Now already, collecting bank has credited the customer's account. It's in hold. Right? Till the settlement period comes, it is in the hold. When the settlement period comes, the funds will be released to whatever in the hold will be released to the. Now already hold has been released. This is in the credit of the customer's account. Right? Now you send a late return. Now you send a late return to that bank. Right? So that's what most of the collecting bankers, right, pay for the checks after 3 o'clock. Reason is there can be customer can come and withdraw the money. Now sometimes what happens, customer had withdrawn from the ATM. Customer had depositor will withdraw from the ATM. By the time late return note goes there, customer depositor have already taken the money. Now what will happen? There's a OD created at the collecting bank. Collecting banker against his depositor, an overdraft created by check has already paid. So most of this what we came across, that customer didn't come forward to pay that OD. Then the bank has to pay the action has to be taken against the authorities guideline. I'll give a case. It happen, number of instances happen. It will affect certain cases. There are certain personal carriers also somehow affected because of these check returns. One of the way this happened in the Bank of Australia branch. This is one of our famous actors, Ocean, is mother actually, a person. She had deposited 25,000 rupees check. Right? She's a beautician. 25,000 rupees check deposit to her account, savings account. And this check was given on the clearing to at Ceylon Bank, Nigambu branch. Ceylon Bank, Nigambu branch, this check has gone. Right? Now, on the following day, this lady has come, checked the account. On the ATM, she withdrew the money. 25,000 withdrew the money. Because the auto system, account has been created. After that, we found the Ceylon Bank has said a late return. They say, with an inquiry what we found, they say they are given a call and send it by fax and send this in. By the time customer have already withdrawn the money. Now the account is overdrawn. Now Ceylon Bank problem is solved. So they don't have any problem. They have to do any recovery. Already their position is cleared. But he has not taken responsibility to overdraw the account and pay. No. He returns the check now. He a collecting banker, customer, check account has been overdrawn. This is a savings account and account is now overdrawn. Now that lady didn't come for to pay what we try to get him money. He said they are not getting. The problem here is now now customer asking two questions. Right? She's asking if he has a check return to me, give me the CRN. Give me the check return. Give me my check back to pay. Like to me to pay, give me the check back or the CRN. Can you create a CRN? And this is not going to the system. It's going bypassing the system. Is check return, late returns are going. So you cannot create a CRN. Now CRN is a legal document to sue against the drawer. CRN is the legal document according to section 35, 36 of the Settlement and Payment Act. It is deemed to be the check, return check with a remark where you can give to the fraud bureau of the police and take a file action in the courts to recover that money. Now the depositor does not get this CRN note, right? And can the photocopy of the copy of this late return note sent by the paying banker will accept in the courts? No. In clearly, that section 35 and 36 of the Settlement Act says, check return note created by the system will be the legal document instead of the physical check. Because in some cases, system physical is not moving. Right? You can't give you can create a CRN note thereon. Now without that, customer will not come to deposit. So that responsibility has to be taken by collecting banker. Who made the error? Paying banker. Right? The second is either he had to return back the check. Can you return back the deposit check? Yeah. According to central bank guidelines, regulations, you can return the physical check, putting a photocopy into the system and you can return it. That's a check to the remark. So check to the remark has to be written by the paying banker, not the collecting banker. The collecting banker cannot put a check to the remark over the. So this case, file action court by this For example, the depositor will go to courts and go to police, lodge entry, and you have a magistrate court to file action. When this check is produced for payment, the court will call evidence on the paying banker, sale and bank to come and give evidence at the time of how much money was there, or is this check to remark, all these things. So sale and bank is not made that entry, therefore you cannot held responsible for that. Now this case pending, there's no way of recovery. In the meantime, bank has taken legal act, disciplinary action against the clearing officer. Bank has taken legal disciplinary action against the clearing officer for not recording this the late return and hold that check, make the account debit account. Clearing also held responsible for that, and the lady was punished. Her promotion was returned. She was just promoted, and finally the results were about to leave. She was suspended. About 3 years, the case was sent, disciplinary case, till it proved that this is the responsibility of the paying bank, collecting banker, and she is not responsible for this. Till it proved about 3-4 years went. So 3-4 years, the promotion was held up. This happened to person to one of the girls, ladies at the clearing officers at the bank. Now see the impact of these practices. These are wrong practices. According to the system, there can't be any late return. There can't be any late return. The returns, the late return, the return note section under form number 47, I think this form number 7 is can be used not as a late return. Right? It is a return, check return advice for which have been for technical errors. Banks are using that as a late return. So ultimately, now if the depositor will file action against the bank will be held responsible for that. Paying bank will be responsible for that, taking that late return. Contrary to the practice of bank. අනුදාන්න පුළුවන්. මගෙන් ඇඩ්වයිස් එකවත් මම කියලා දෙන සිස්ටම් එක මෙහෙම අනුදාන්නේ කියලා. Course of action එක මේකයි. Liable. Okay. So the manual system එකේ කරපු දේවල් automatic clear system එකත් එක්ක කරන්න බෑ. Two different systems. Now we have mixed up these two. අපි දෙකම පටලවාගෙන තියෙන්නේ. එහෙම system එකක් නැහැ. කස්ටමර්ට සල්ලි දාන්නේ කියලා නැහැ කොහෙවත්. Right? නඩුවකුත් තියෙන පරණ නඩුවක් මේ අදේ කලේ this is not real very long one. Latest railway company case about long before about 1930s or 40s, I can 1920s. Very old case. Yeah. Even there they have decided at the time that duties of the customer, it is declared that I think if you go through the practice of banking books, Dr. Kramasuria's books, you may find this case where at the time of issuing a check, there should be funds in the account. Okay. Now there's another practical issue is come with the this. What is the date of presenting check? Check date එක තියෙන එකක්. Now present කළ date එක වෙනස්. Okay. So act එකේ තියෙන්නේ at the time of issuing the check. Section 25 of Debt Recovery Act. Section 25 the Debt Recovery Act. ඒකේ තියෙන check එකක් issue කරනකොට සල්ලි තියෙනවා account එකේ. And what is the time of check? So I will come to that a little later. So the impact of these present practices are collecting bank finding very difficult situation. So my personal advice to collecting bankers, don't accept these late returns, especially check return RDs. There's no late return. There's no system called late return at all. So you should not accept late return. If you refuse this late return, you are not accepting this, then the responsibility lies with the paying bank who hold a check without returning within the cut-off time. Okay. The punishment is then only punishment punishment. System procedure or processor. Process practice impact. Okay. Now let's go to cash check. I just earlier, a little while ago, I discussed about the cash check. If a cash check is returned, it has to be like a normal check return. It has to be entered. Check return remark has to be placed on the check. Enter the check return register and give the check to the depositor. Depositor or the presentator. Don't give checks that's no funds in the account and don't return checks. Younger generation of අලුත් ළමයි මුගක් වෙලා කවුන්ටර් එකේ account සල්ලි නැහැනේ. account සල්ලි නැහැනේ. කොච්චර තියෙන්නේ? පොඩ්ඩයි තියෙන්නේ. කීයක් තියෙනවද? සමහර වෙලාවට මෙන්න මෙහෙම කේස් එකක් ආවා, right? Now teller has told account එකේ තියෙන balance මෙච්චරයි. මෙච්චර අඩුයි කියලා balance එක වෙන. මෙච්චරක් විතර. What he did was he deposited that money in cash. A small amount is short. So he deposited that money and cash the check. Okay? He deposited that amount of money, the case. Then what happened? Customer, the customer, paying back his customer, that is drawer, file action against the bank, that divulging of information. It's a criminal offense. Section 86 of, Section 76, 77 of Banking Act number 30 of 1988 specifically said duty of secrecy, confidentiality you have to maintain. So you divulge information in the counters. The customer prove that bank has done that and bank is liable for damages and damages and the cost. These are practical things happening in the banks. So now we should not give any information. If the cash funds are not available, return the check with a remark. It is today very important, return a check with a remark, because all the check returns today we have to report to the crib. Right? End of the month, all the branches has to be report this check returns. Now what is happening? Only checks recorded which are come through the clearing are recorded, not the cash checks. So the customer issues few number of cash checks and number of check returns taken place, but there's no record in the crib. So according to the regulation, cribs, central bank directives, banks should not open accounts, new accounts, current accounts, for those who are having check returns in other banks. Okay. First session we discussed opening of account again. I gave you this information. Right? So the procedure is very clear. So therefore, paying bankers have to play a lot of roles. Although seen to be legal side very important. Right. What's the crossing of a check and what are the crossings, types of crossings? We discussed last session. Just to remind you, what is the effect of a crossing? The crossing on a check is direction to the paying bank that the check should be paid only to another bank. Right? A bank can ignore the crossing and pay a cross check or account. However, if it later turns out that the person paid was not entitled to receive the payment, the paying bank will be liable to the true owner and also forfeit the statutory protection given by the auditors. So 60 of the bill of exchange auditors. Crossing stamp that cross-check account give what you're liable. It is negligence. This is because payment of a check in contravention of the crossing would be regarded as a negligence by the bank. Right? Normally we are not paying. Sometimes once we are customers logo symbol shoot mislead the bank. So bank very carefully go look at the check leave. Right. When it comes to cash check, we already discussed about the bearer check. Payment of a order check. Bearer check payment to an order purpose to be endorsed by or on behalf of the payee. The drawee is discharged by payment of due course. Legally, how it is this is. The above section provides protection is paying banker if he has made payment of an order check in due course and if the proceed credited to the account of an endorsee, if and only if the endorsement is regular. We discuss what's a regular endorsement. Payment of a bearer check, what the legal requirements are, where a check is originally expressed to be payable to bearer, the drawee is discharged by payment if on due course to the bearer thereof. Notwithstanding any endorsement, whether in full or blank, appearing in the thereon, and notwithstanding that any such endorsement purport to be restrict or exclude further negotiation. Okay. So bearer check always is a bearer check. We discussed that. Bearer check is always a bearer check. So you can pay over the counter without any restriction if it's uncrossed. If it's crossed, it can be collected for account. The above section specifies a check which is bearer is always a bearer, which means if a check is originally drawn as a bearer, the check remains always bearer, irrespective of any endorsement in the bank back of. Right? Therefore, banks are not required to verify the regularity of the endorsement on the back of the check, if any, and they are protected from liability if they have made payment on an uncrossed bearer check to bearer in due course. Right? Is it clear on that? In this even from last session, we are talking about this. The bearer check can be paid over the counter without any hesitation. Okay. Where a banker on whom the cross check was drawn has paid the same in due course, the banker paying the check in such case has come to hands of the payee. The drawer therefore thereof shall respectively be entitled to the same right and be placed if the amount of the check has been paid to and received by the true owner thereof. Any cross check can be a ordinary crossing or a special crossing. The check is crossed, then the cross check can collected by a banker, collecting banker, and where the paying banker pays for it on due course, is deemed to be paid the check for true owner. Okay. The paying bank of cross check shall satisfy the following condition to be eligible for protection under related acts. Payment shall be made in due course. Payment shall be made on due course, that is, within the office hours, within the business hours, it will be paid. Where a check is crossed generally, the banker to whom it drawn shall not pay it otherwise than to a banker. This is blank check, general crossing. Like this we discussed earlier, how to collect check like, where the bank has to can be collected. If it is crossing without any bank's name, it's a general crossing, so any bank can collect it. No specific bank. Where a check is crossed specially, the banker on whom it is drawn shall not pay it, otherwise than banks to whom it is crossed or agent of the collection. Agent of the collection, I just clearly mentioned, it can be collected by agent of a bank. In following cases, paying bank does not give Contingent protection if he makes a payment of a check. Materially altered to signature of the drawer is forged or payment made of a cross check with an irregular endorsement. Irregular endorsement. If it's an order check, if the endorsement is irregular, then the paying banker does not get a protection. Let's see what are these irregular endorsements. Okay. Makes payment of a cross check to a person otherwise than the banker, then he liable for a loss or to the true owner of the check. Right? A payment of a cross check to a person otherwise than the banker is liable for the loss to the true owner. Right? Cross check a person, individual person is good, bank is liable. When holder signs the instrument with an intention to negotiate it, it is called an endorsement. Holder signs the reverse of the check is called a negotiation. A simple signature of the holder on a negotiable instrument without an additional word constitutes an endorsement. Let us see what are the endorsement practical. The endorsement confers the property in the instrument to the endorsee transferee with the right to further negotiation. So whoever endorses and gives the checks to another party, he can further negotiate, further transfer the use the checkbook in anybody else. So any number of people can be negotiated, endorsed and transferred till it made available for payment in the bank. Okay, right. What is the endorsement of a check? Now this is a check the endorsement of a negotiable instrument followed by delivery transfers to the endorsee. So we discussed this one how to negotiate a negotiable instrument. If it's an order check, it has to be endorsed and delivery. Then only the proper delivery taking place. The endorsement may by express words restrict or exclude such right, or may merely construct the endorsement agent to endorse the instrument or receive its contents for endorsee or for same for the specified person. So when you make an endorsement, right, it becomes open check. It's become a bearer check thereafter. So anybody else endorses, they get a right for it. Essential endorsement. In case of an illiterate person, he may endorse the instrument by putting his thumb impression on his left hand endorsed by witnesses who must sign it. It is presumed that the endorsement appearing on a negotiable instrument were made in the same order which they appear on the thereon. It must be completed by the delivery of the instrument. We have Indian actor, right? Okay. Now what is this? The essential elements of endorsement. Number one is if this person is illiterate, person who bear a check, order check, illiterate, he cannot try and sign properly, write properly, or he is not literate enough. Right? Sometimes you may write eligible names and all, something. This happens when a person gets a check from a government institution for a payment. Right? So the government issues certain government office departments issue checks to certain payments to the people. For example, we say farmer. A farmer compensation given agriculture department. So that you buy a check. A check is more or less order check. Sometimes it may be account payee. Sometimes maybe always a negotiable check because it's a printed order check. Write the name of the person. So he have to endorse it. He doesn't know how to endorse it. If he not endorsed properly, pay him back again, return back. So what the duty of the collecting bank here is get the left hand thumb impression of that person on the reverse of the check and certify by the bank officer that this left hand thumb impression of such so and so is placed in front of me. Certify right? That it should be, then that check can be paid by the paying bank. Right? Now, for example, if a check is stored in favor of, say, for example, Bank of Sri Lanka, Kurunegala branch. It's a what do you call check issued by Ministry of Department of Agriculture for a farmer on certain compensation given by the government. The check is issued. Now he want to cash check, right? Now he doesn't have account. If you open account and put into account, that account will not be operated thereafter. So it is going to be our system getting blocked with that account, unproductive. So best thing we can ask, there are two ways of doing this. When you illiterate person there, if it's a cross check, we can ask the uh, uh, issuing authority to cancel the cross stamp and give a certificate of the reverse that pay cash to such a person. When it's presented for payment, since it's an order check, we have to get an endorsement. So bank officer can get thumb impression and certify that this person's signature, thumb impression is appearing here. So that can be accepted, that check can be paid. Okay. So in the presume that the endorsement appearing on the negotiable instrument were the made on the same order. What is an endorsement? In practice, in the books, legally say simple signature. Legally, the endorsement is defined as a simple signature. Yeah, but in practice, what we expect as signature is the name appearing on the forefront in the same manner should be written on the reverse also. Okay, so the negotiation of endorsement is very important. Drawer or bearer issues a supply with the supplies and issues a bill of exchange to the drawing bank. So it is a drawer with the bilateral agreement customer, right? He gives the checks, endorsement by delivery. So he is the endorsing the holder in due course, and he can send this for the drawee for payment of the check. Now, what is endorsement? We discussed last week what are the types of endorsement. So I'm not going to repeat this again. Blank or general endorsement is just signing the name on the reverse is called endorsement in blank. The endorsement in full or special endorsement with a specific position of the person also in the endorsement is a special endorsement. The restricted endorsement is endorse restricting the further transaction. That means or pay only to endorsee only. That's called restricted endorsement. Right? Partial endorsement, where two people they are in the appearing on the as payee, one party signs is called partial endorsement. This endorsement we discussed in detail. If you refer to my earlier last week's session, all the details are given about these things. All right. So we'll go back to the endorsement. What is an endorsement? How this endorsement to be written? Okay. Okay. අපි ගමු check එක. I will try to get the check to the board. ඒක ගන්න බෑ වගේ. Screening board එකකින්. Right. Let's see what are the endorsements and how to do the endorsements. Check. Check again. A. Doctor. A. B. D. Silva. एक बैर चेकेगा here was cut and it becoming an order check. So what are the endorsements on the face of it, how it has been written, same way it should be written on the reverse. So let's see what are these things. Doctor right, make an endorsement. You like that? Make it take endorsement. It's our endorsement. Our endorsement. Endorsement. Our endorsement. Okay. This is how we can do endorsement. Dr. A.B. De Silva. Check is not in favor of Dr. A.B. De Silva. Make answer Dr. A.B. De Silva. Yeah. Main endorsement එක වැරදි. Why? මේවා include කරන්න බෑ. Sarvanama, professions, names, Dr. Father, Reverend Father, Pujya Father, endorsement කරන්න බෑ. එතකොට ඒක endorsement irregular. Endorsement irregular. Okay. දෙවෙනි එකත් බෑ. එතකොට මේ block status වලින් endorse කරන්නත් බෑ. හරි. block status වලින් endorse කරන්නත් බෑ. තුන්වෙනි එක ABCs. Silva. හරි. මේක පුළුවන් මේක හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ AB Silva doctor කියන එක අන්තිමේදී වරහන් ඇතුලේ දාන එක put inside the bracket, it can be accepted. Okay. ඒක හරි. මේක කරදී. මොකද it cannot be two languages. Languages දෙකකින් endorse කරන්න බෑ. Endorse කරන්න බෑ. Languages දෙකකින්. If the check is pays නම ලියලා දෙනවා නම් languages දෙකකින් මේක එහෙම ડોක්ටර් ඇතුව එහෙම නැතුව එහෙම තිබුණා endorsement එක එකකින් එක language එක වෙන්න ඕන. and we just take in the bank. So the makeup parody for D name එක D කියන සිල්වා කියන එක නමක්. D කියන එක වෙනව හදන්න බෑ. ඒකට මේකත් signature එකක් endorsement එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. It's not an endorsement. It should be endorsement should be in flowing handwriting. Any language can be Sinhala, English, or whatever language. So the maker English and කියන්නේ single endorse කරන්නේ. But ඒක හරිය accept කරන්න. Okay. තව endorsement එකක් මම දෙන්නම්. මේ වගේ එකක්. I locked it and give me you can get endorsement එකක්. මේකත් බෑ. ඒ විදිහට block කරන්න බෑ. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒකත් කරන්නේ. හරි. මේක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එතන වැරදුනාට මේක accept කරලා මොකද ඒක join කරන්න බැරි නිසා. හරි. මේක මෙහෙම ඉවත් කරන්න. එහෙම ඉවත් කරන්න. Right? These are the types of endorsement. How we should do the endorsement. Endorsement එක කරන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. Clear? Right. Endorsement එක අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ endorsement එක අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ අපි කතා කරා order check එකෙන් පමණයි. bearer check එකේ endorsement එක අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. Right? The check එක okay. check එකේ මෙතන bearer පුවා නම් bearer strike කරා නම් මේක order check එකක් වෙනවා. ඒතර මේකේ check එක endorse කරන්න ඕනේ. endorse කරන්න ඕනේ මේක අනිත් පැත්තේ හරි date එක මේ cross name open එකක් බලමු. Endorsement එක කියනවනේ මෙතන මේ endorsement වල මේ specific given the specific so endorsement should be here. When endorsement is given, that will come to the about check remark, then it has to be certified by a banker. Right. Next thing we are going to discuss is about the check returns. Now, paying banker, if the checks are not, some funds are not available, it has to be returned with a check return remark. You want a cash check or a clearing check? Without a check return remark, you cannot return. It's a statutory requirement. It's compulsory. Okay. Now let us see some reports about the check returns. This appeared in the newspapers. By the Lanka Clear has published this one. A check can be returned by a paying bank for a number of reasons, which includes insufficient funds in the current account of the issue. Drawers account accounts their funds are not sufficient, that can be returned. The main reason for check return is the failure of issuer provide sufficient funds in the account for 52% of the daily check returns. Sometime back, this report was published. It's an eye-opener for us. Now, what is the impact on this check returns? Now, Issuing a check knowing that there's no funds is an offense. अभी तक एक वाला आप checks हैं 50 clearing checks. The what are cleared through Lanka clear only, right? Through the Lanka clear, the clearing house collection checks are more than 50, nearly about 52% are RDs, insufficient funds in the account. What is the impact on this? What is the impact on this? The trust on the checks among the people is getting deteriorated. If a certain bank's checks are frequently returning, if a certain bank's checks frequently returning for lack of funds, then the credibility of that bank is getting deteriorated. The market in the public, people may not accept that bank's checks. So reputation may get deteriorated. आपको ए बैंक पे चेक है आने ही पर तो बहुत से checks. Because know that that certain banks without any what do you call findings opening accounts, current accounts for any person comes to open account without verifying. So in the very first session, we discussed it in detail. It's a duty of the banks before opening account to scan the prospective customer. We discussed that in the first session, first session. Okay, so issuing a check knowing that there's no funds in his account is an offense. Those who issue checks without adequate funds will have to pay deterrent charges imposed by the banks. So when you check returns for lack of funds, banks are charging 1,500 to 3,500, 4,000 rupees as penalties. Still, some customers sending checks without returning, and they don't have money in the account, so the bank charges are overdrawing the account, and that bank accounts are considered as bank unsatisfactory conduct accounts. So they have to close those accounts. We cannot maintain those accounts. And also should take action that particular customers should not allow to open current account any other bank. Because wherever he goes, there's the same thing. That's the role of this, today's environment, what is expected. So I told you on the first day in my session, before we will go through the crib report and see any check unsatisfactory counts, check returns, as well as accounts overdrawn for commission, which have been closed. We should not open account for those customers. Those are bad customers. So they come and open account with us and they start returning checks from issued our bank. It will be deteriorated. There are certain people operating accounts, the different name. The account is closed for father, opening on the account in the name of wife. That account is closed, they open account in the driver's name. That was closed, they open account in the servant name. Because the banks are not opening account for them. So we have to verify the relationship. KYC is very important. Right. As well as will lose the confidence of the check payments process. The bank as well as the businesses will lose confidence of the payment process if checks are not honored on time. Similarly, the businesses will be reluctant to accept checks from the customers having history of frequent check returns. Which is problem. One side bank reputation get deteriorated. On the other side, checks will not be accepted in the business community for their transactions. Therefore, the issue of the person who writes the check has to play a critical role in reducing the check returns by maintaining sufficient funds in his account. Out of total number of checks of 190,000 presented daily for clearing at Banca Clear, the clearing has about 10,000 or 5.6% are returned unpaid. The total value of return checks in a day is substantial, amounting to over ₹500,000,000. The bank statement says, the central bank says it. The volume of check returns in Sri Lanka is high by international standards, and it has serious implications on the public confidence of a checks as a means of payment. Okay, so check returns cannot be tolerated anymore. What are the legal provisions and repercussions with regarding the check return for lack of fund? Drawing a check without fund is an offence punishable under Section 25 and Section 25A of Debt Recovery Special Provision Act number 2 of 1990 and Section 400 and 203 of the Penal Code. Issuing funds without check without criminal offence. There are two different acts. One is Debt Recovery Act, Section 25. Other one is Criminal Procedure Code, Section 400 and 403. It's a criminal offence issuing a check. Right? Issuing a check without funds is a criminal offence. That's considered as what do you call breach of trust. Breach of trust is a criminal offence. A consistent high rate of check returns would lead to an erosion of public confidence in checks as a payment instrument with serious implications on the banking system. Accordingly, it is inevitable that banks would resort to take action against those offenders by closing down their current accounts. What are the drawing a check without fund and office under Section 25 and 25 says drawing a check. Check का लियने का साली ने तो लियने का तरह. So now, what is the date of a check? You may sign date of a check and date presented for payment are two different days. Date of the check written in the face of the check and what is presented for the date of presentation is two different dates. Therefore, the legal implication of drawing a check, the date of drawing a check is considered as the date where the check has been submitted for payment. Check has been submitted for payment. You submitted payment for example on say today, that is 4th December. Even though check bear date 30th of November, so for legal interpretation, check has drawn on 4th of December. Right? So on that date, funds should be available. Sometime on the 4th, there may be funds in the account. But the percentage has not presented the check, therefore it is not bank's fault. The depositor has to keep the money in reserve to meet the check. Okay. He can't say that I had deposited money, kept money on 4th, but after he have withdrawn the money, and then thereafter he can't say that I have kept the money, you have not deposited the check. No. Interpretation is date of drawing the check is the date where check is presented for payment. What are the responsibilities of the bank to prevent check returns and frauds? Good faith on the bank's part of normally considered. Good faith. Okay, discuss करा. Bank has to play a very big role to maintain good faith. Customer होता है विश्वास कराना. So we have to find out the background of the customer is very vital before opening of a check account. Banks must follow due diligence on opening new customer current account with proper verification with other banks regarding the past behavior of the account maintainers. Now this is very important because the CRIB have given this information now. How the customer maintain accounts with the other banks. The bank should take immediate action to close. Sorry, bank must educate customers on crossing. So regarding customers must issue checks crossed. It can be protected by not cashing over the counter. You can trace the root of the check when the cost is deposited to account. The depositor we may be able to get it in the case of a fraudulent transaction. So customer must educate about the crossings. The bank should take immediate action to close the accounts which have frequent check returns. So all the banks are now instructed tolerate only 3 checks be returned for lack of funds. More than 3, the account has to be closed down. Now the practice is to close down the account. We had give a notice of 7 days notice for the customer to get ready, registered for himself after closing the account. 7 days notice must be given. Whatever notice you have sent to the customer that you are going to close the account for unsatisfactory conduct, he may come and plead to the bank and ask for time that he will be maintaining the account in a favorable manner and allow the account to be maintained, and he may plead. So normally most of the banks are accepting those pleas and then allowing to operate the account further. Withdraw the earlier notice of close of account. Reverse करेगा लोग. Very famous है reverse surgery ने reverse करेगा लोग. After about 20 months or 5-6 weeks, customer again started returning the checks. I'll leave one thing. Closing within 7 days. Customer, I know. When are you going to stop that? When are you going to stop that? This is a problem. So, practice of banking says, there's a practice, if the customer is given a chance to continue the account after giving proper note to close the account, bank should obtain a letter of indemnity from the customer. There's a printed form in the banks with regard to this indemnity. So bank has to get an indemnity signed by the customer, attested by a JP, that in future, if any check returns without any notice, banks are authorized to close the account. Earlier we had these practices, but now with the technology and all, they forgot about these things. Okay, so therefore banks has to follow very carefully past the behavior of the customer and take proper action. The bank must educate the customer on process which this should take immediate action of the closed account, which are frequent check returns with returns. The customer who are frequently issuing checks without sufficient funds in their account should be warned and their account should be closed subsequently. Okay. Now, what are these check return remarks? This is published in the Lanka Clear, written on the check return note. Note taken zero land. Right. There are several types of check return remarks. What are the check return remarks? There are certain remarks called can be represented. There are some remarks not represented. So these are the list of check return remarks printed on the reverse of the check CRI note, check return notification CRI note. To follow this common check return remarks. So beyond this, so other than this, you can't create any check return remarks. You have to apply these check return remarks only. Okay. So there are certain first category representable check return remarks. When check is returned, when check is returned, some checks can be redeposited. Those are representable checks. There are some checks are not representable. Not representable. What are the representable check returns are? Now, first one, code number 2, effects not realized. What it mean? The drawer has deposited some checks to his account which has not yet realized. The value of unrealized checks equal or exceeds the value of the check. Not the standard value of the check. Right? So if you exceed the value of the check or similar, then we can effect on check return remark is effect was realized. Effects not realized. Right. Next is comes about the payees. Payees endorsement required. If you send over the check, if there's no endorsement has been placed on the reverse of the check, then paying bank can return that check asking for endorsement. Endorsement required. Paying bank will return the check asking for endorsement. Endorsement is required. It's that is code number 10. Code number 11 says pays endorsement irregular. Pays endorsement irregular. What are the irregular endorsements? Now we just little while ago I put on the board number of endorsements. Number of endorsement. Those out of that only 2 endorsements are accepted. Others are irregular. So pays endorsement irregular mean it is not according to the bank's requirement. Irregular. Next one is pays endorsement eligible. Instead of endorsement, writing the name as appearing on the front, customer has put a signature over there. So customer made a thumb impression, but it has not been certified by a banker. It's called endorsement eligible. Then, box number 3, post-dated check. Post-dated check means a check is forward date on the date of presentation. The forward date on the date of presentation called post-dated. So post-dated checks does not have statutory what you call validity as a order to pay. Then 14, payment postponed pending drawer's confirmation. For payment postponed pending drawer's confirmation. But when are you going to write this remark? Yeah. When have we put this remark? Right. Anybody can make a stop payment for the check. Anybody can make a hold of a check and ask to make a stop payment of a check and ask to stop the payment of a check. For example, a customer given a check to somebody, A guy going to B. So we have expressed the check. So you can come immediately tell that bank made the stop payment stop for that particular check. So what bank will record it, bank will record it in the statement not to pay the check. When the check is presented for payment, right? The remark is payment postponed pending drawer's confirmation. Right? We'll accept the stop payment by a third party and we'll write to the drawer customer and to the customer this stop payment, getting his approval for that. Once he approved that, then this remark cannot be placed. Okay, that is having changed stop payment stop by drawer. Okay. Then CNV credit card verified. That is the situation. When they are issuing this credit card certified, verified. Now we said clearing system within 1 day. Today it are received. Tomorrow it comes to present for payment. Today itself we have to return it, or either pay or not. Either pay or return it. But there are certain instances where system breakdowns. System breakdown and payment cannot be checked whether the customer had sufficient enough money or not. We cannot verify. Oh, banks are operating, but there are some banks are on strike. It cannot be recently. State banks are now 13 for go for a action. If there are some action are taken, disturbing the normal process of the business of the banks, checks cannot be cleared. Check cannot be cleared. Check can be collected, but it cannot be cleared. Okay. Next one. That checks verified mean, credit not verified mean. There's a system breakdown, or if we go to the strike, the employees are not working. Therefore, we cannot say the check whether they can pay it or not. So check can be written as CNV. Now this is not a actual punishable or offendable remark. Only very rarely only this type of remarks are coming with this problem situation. Or else sometimes you may find last year we came across, there are certain areas have been locked down. Certain areas has been curfew imposed. You can't work there. Other areas is working. So the checks are collected, sent for clearing. It cannot be sent for get the payment from the paying bank. So remark will be CN. Right? Next one, code number 16, funds in transit. It's for government accounts. If the funds are not available in the government accounts, we can return a check for RD. We can return a check for RD. So instead of that, we say funds in transition. Funds in transition. Okay, so these are the remarks applied for these checks can be represented by the bank itself. Sometimes we are sent to the customer for endorsement cases. Then customer, after uh, rectify this, can deposit it back. Okay. The non-representable check return codes are first one, that is the check return remark cannot be represented. Again, it cannot be put into collected. Only once these checks can be used. Refer to drawer. Earlier we allowed because the number of times, now it's not allowed. Only once. Once the check return comes and refer to and customer have to come and collect the check and we can recollect from the issue. Stale check. What's a stale check? Okay, sorry. What is stale check? Yeah, no one is answering. That's been good. Check has been issued beyond the validity date. If a check has been more than 6 months, it's called a stale check. Check has been more than 6 months, it's called a stale check. Right? One more check remark now. We can return a check for validity expired. What's that time? Check. Stale check, where check date is more than 6 months old, that's called a stale check. In validity expired means if the validity date has been limited by the drawer, if that date is expired, for example, 30 days. So we have to count 30 days, not a 1 month. 60 days. We have to count 60 days and say beyond that date, the check is made to presentation, can return as called validity expired. Then 51 is account closed, very common one. Once the account closed, you cannot represent that check again. Then payment stopped by drawer. So we discussed earlier. Payment postponed by drawer. Yeah, third party has made the stop payment. Where the payment countermanded by the drawer is called payment stopped by drawer. Drawer has stopped make the payment. Next one is like drawer deceased. Now this remark very carefully and put. Who is the drawer? Right? Now, if I check, individual check, individual account, sole proprietor account, individual account or sole proprietor account. If the drawer deceased, the owner, the account holder deceased, then there's no legally, what do you call, contract between the bank and the drawer. So that has to be closed. Remark is check has to be returned back saying that drawer deceased. Even though check may have written prior to his death, even though the check can be written prior to his death, but still when we presented at the time of presentation, the drawer is not there, right? Then you return as drawer deceased. Right, next comes to partnerships and joint accounts. Partnership and joint accounts. Where when one party has died, when one party had died, whatever, it is here, It's given in the 56 rows mandate determined. One party died, other party living, but contract is ceased. Then pay checks on that. Right? So rows mandate determined. Then comes the company accounts. Signatory is the director of the company. Right? Director dies. Right? The check return, check has to be signed by the director, and director has died. So those checks we cannot return. We can pay. Why? Draw is a the company, no? Company's agent had died, so we can draw deceased. Then funds attached. Funds attached mean if it's a court order, garnish order, income tax order, custom order, then some sort of a legal organization, government institution under legally where the funds have been blocked for a legal reason. Right? For a court order, can be a garnish order, or income tax department can send order under section 112, or under customs duty act they can send the order where the funds can block. Funds are available, but it's blocked due to some. Then we can return as funds attached. Those checks cannot be represented. Right? Then amounts, words and figure differs. Clear now? That can be returned. Then rows mandate determined, we said, where the one party right, other party is remaining, then we send return the check rows mandate determined. Then row signature differs from specimen. Row signature differs from specimen. That is, signature is not clear. It's not same as the specimen. Or else there can be a signature okay, but certain part of the signature is not there. What's that? Earlier we have written that as signature incomplete. Now we don't have to use that word. We don't have that what do you call remark. Now, for example, signature has to be placed on a rubber stamp. For example, business company, limited liability company. The signature is the one of the directors. Have to sign all the stuff. Where the rubbers, without the rubber or without the name of the company, place a signature, then that also row signature differs from specimen. So these are the instances we return the checks and what are the check return remarks. Right. So these are more important things. One thing this is. Yeah. Okay. Right. So those are check return remarks. So we, other than these remarks, we cannot use any other remarks. Right. If you write any other remarks in the check return, we think some other information, the check return, we find some reasons and the check will be returned with the amount reason. Collecting bank can refuse to accept that check return. If the collecting bank refuses to accept that check return, then you are liable to the parties, relevant parties regarding the return of the checks. Okay, so whatever check return remarks we have to use. Other than that, you cannot use any other check. Right. Now let us see who are the parties to whom the paying bank is responsible for. One is to the customer, your drawer. To pay to the check on demand if it's in order. Check is in order. There's a way statutory features are there. On demand, whenever presented for payment, you have to pay us who have presented for the payment. If the is properly drawn and presented. Okay. Sufficient funds available or any other arrangement. Funds may be available or any other arrangement. If you have it, so funds are not there, arrangement has to be made in advance, prior arrangement, not after check is presented for payment. Okay. Any legal obstacles for payment? We discussed on the first day. What are the legal obstacles for making payments? Right. So we are discussed in details in first session the least legal obstacles. Then paying bank is responsible to the true owner of the check. When the value of the check be paid to the true owner, that means fraudulently, fraudulent check you have been paid, then you are responsible for the true owner. Okay. To the collecting banker, you are responsible. It's mainly considering the rules of the clearing system and doctrine of recovery of money paid by mistake. What is this doctrine of recovery of money paid in mistake? If we have paid the money to wrong account, you have no right to debit the account. That's a legal requirement. Okay. Right. Now, finally, we discuss the important thing is wrongful dishonor of a check. What do you mean by wrongful dishonor? So return a check incorrectly, not for a valid reason. There can be mistakenly you can return a check. Right? Wrongful dishonor occurs when the bank declines of a payment of a check without a valid reason. The reason is not acceptable or that it can be challengeable by the drawer, why the check has been returned. Right? Now, when the stop payment order has been withdrawn by the customer, when a stop payment order is given, you feed into the system. Right? And now, after some time, customer may come and withdraw the stop payment notice. Customer may withdraw the stop payment notice because the transactions are okay, withdrawn. But if you are not withdraw that, remove that from the system at level, when check is made for payment, system will reject it. See, stop payment, stop by no payment reject by the system. Then you are liable for the customer to return this check as well as to the owner of the check. Returning a check issued by a customer for insufficient fund due to payment of a posted check or a payment of stop payment check. Right? Now, stop payment checks are very, according to new system, very rare you get because once you stop payment receive, you immediately put into the system. Then system will not pay for that particular check. But there are instances, stop payment notice given, banks are not immediately fed into the system, keeping the letter on the table and forgotten that, and check has been available somewhere else. For example, a customer's account is at bank, say, Salem Bank Nugegoda, right? Salem Bank Nugegoda, customer comes and gives the check stop payment notice, right? And in some mistakenly somewhere, the stop payment letter was on the table, which telling some other thing, the officer may have forgotten to feed into the system. After about 10-15 minutes time, the particular check have been made sent or presented for payment at the bank. They are Maharagama branch. In the Maharagama branch, check is presented for payment. System does not show that stop payment. That check clears. Then we are liable for wrongful dishonor. The other one is posted checks. This is very, very common practice. Very, very common practice in the banks. Postage checks. Paying postage checks. For example, now a check bearing date, say 4th December, today date, but check bearing date is 4th December, uh, 4th December 2021. Now today is Saturday. Okay. So check customer has to wait till Monday to deposit this check to collect fund. Say Monday he deposited, only Tuesday he is getting money. But customer does it, he deposits this check 3rd, that is a Friday, yesterday. Yesterday deposit at the collecting bank, collecting as going for collection. If the collecting bank has collected that check, it is appearing in your system on Monday morning. Right? Now funds are available, you pay that check. Funds are available, you pay that check. And return a check payable on that date. So you can be sued for wrongful dishonor. Why? You have paid a postage check. But now you may argue check is dated 4th, it has presented on 6th. So therefore, it's not post-dated. No. On the check, it is scanned on the reverse. Date of collection appears as 3rd. So collecting bank is responsible for collecting post-dated check. Paying bank is responsible for paying a post-dated check. Because you cannot pay a check right on the same date check. Idada check ida given bad. System in the bad with some power no. Okay. So these are practically happening. These are wrongful dishonor. Customer saman kaya bankodari yani but other countries immediately they take action against the bank. So you have to pay huge penalties as a defamation and other charges. Then not paying an overdraft facility already sanctioned. Loan ka grant kala thina, loan ka account ka credit kala na. Ya tarah check kya issue kala. Whether branch check is present for payment. ये बैंक रिटर्न करो थी ये ब्रांच का क्या लैप ओडीए का डील अप्लाई करना ओडीए का सैंक्शन के लोग को वाले डॉक्यूमेंट्स उतार संगला it has not been marked in the release sheet. Therefore, there was a case in 1894, very long one, Rose versus Bedford Banking Company Limited. 1894 case है तीनों overdraft facility legally marker में wrongful dishonor. Okay, when wrongful dishonor of a check, bank is liable for 2, the breach of contract and libel. Okay, wrongful dishonor someone bank, the paying bank is liable for number one is breach of contract. What is the contract? You and your customer. You and your customer, that's a drawer. Breach of the contract. What is the contract? Pay a check as and when presented for payment, if the funds are available. So if your bank is found guilty for a dishonor wrongfully a check, there can be 2 types of damages can be claimed by the other party. One is nominal damages, the one general damages. Nominal damages mean you the percentage of the check's owner, true owner of the check, have proved that you have wrongfully dishonored check. but there's no financial loss or damage for him. Financial loss or damage for him. Therefore, in such circumstances, the court may decide that you are negligence in dishonoring this check, but there's no big damage to the party. Therefore, order for a nominal damage amount. There was a case, like I remember the case, I must find out in London. It was bank found guilty for dishonoring check, but only allowed £1 to be paid. £1 as a nominal damages. But when the damages are very severe, they can claim for a lot. You are dishonored check. The part, for example, the depositor of that check is a reputed party, anticipating certain transaction to be done. Sorry, and the paying back, the customer given this check to that party, expecting certain transactions or payment for a college fee or something. If you are not paid on due date, it's sometimes he has to sit for the examination. That type of a yes. So if you return the check incorrectly, it is dishonored. The parties can, right? The drawer can sue. You will be sued by the parties for wrongful dishonor, and for the damages, cost and the damages happen. It has to pay that. So returning a check incorrectly, very serious case. The other one is libel. Libel consists of a publication to a third party. It is a publication for a third party, an untrue imputation against a reputation of another, ordinarily in writing. ලිඛිතව ගම්සු සම්බන්ධයෙන් වැරදි චිත්‍රයක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා නම් ඒකට කියන ලිබෙල් කියනවා. So therefore, returning a check remark as referred to drawer is a consist of libel on its customer's reputation. This was decided by Jason versus Midland Bank, 1968. Refer to drawer. Ask for the drawer. That's why you ask it. There's no wrong in that, no? Refer to drawer means ask for the drawer. Why they are not paid the check? But in practice, we use the word refer to drawer for RDs. Yeah, lack of funds. Lack of funds. Therefore, it will refer to drawer means it will, the person who thinks that customer does not have money. But actually refer to drawer means word used for something else. But you know, decided that it's a consists of customer's reputation has been deteriorated. Okay, so paying checks are very important. There are instances where bank will not pay checks. What are instances? Right? We discussed, I mentioned earlier. These are instances. Number one is notice of countermand by customer. Payment of, right? Stop payment notice or receiver, we pay a check. Notice of a death of the customer. Section 70 of Bill of Exchange says, when the customer dies, contract is ceased. So we discussed it a while ago. Different types of customers, death, how they remarks. Notice of incapacity of the customer. Right? When the customer's mental incapacity, that means he has not sound in his mental position, payment may not be paid. And also if a person coming to bank to encash a check, it fully drunk, The person, right? Person presenting a check, not maybe a customer, maybe the drawer, may not be the drawer. Any person can present a check to. So bringing a check to encash a check over the counter fully drunken, you can refuse the payment. Why? He's capacity, temporary medical capacity. A notice of bankruptcy. Customer, one of joint account holders, bankrupted. The court decided that the customer bankrupt. Bankrupt means his assets are not sufficient to pay their liabilities. Bank can be decided as bankruptcy. The notice of winding up petition against the company. The limited liability company going to be closed down under Section 7 of the Companies Act. It will be published in the newspapers. If you see the notice in the public newspapers, immediately you have to stop making any payments. Servicing a garnish order, stop payment notice. Servicing an injunction order by a court of law. Serving an order by Inland Revenue Act under Section 27 of Inland Revenue Act, 1985. And closure of the customer's account. Account close. So these are the instances we have payment cannot be intervened. So that's all about payments of checks, paying back as responsibility. Okay, questions? Yeah. Any questions?
Sir,
Yeah.
so if a check have two reasons to return, technical issue and insufficient funds, what is the reason we can apply?
Yeah. Insufficient fund is an issue.
Thank you, sir.
Any else? Anything else? Okay, close for the day then. Thank you. I think we 4 sessions I had did. Opening of accounts, the collecting of checks, payment of checks, and teller functions. Mostly our practice of practices in practice of banking questions, the legal side of it discussed. Mostly how the legally affecting our practices. Sometimes practices come forward, sometimes legal sides come forward. And instances where given bank practices are accepted as legally, so therefore we have to know about what our job is. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, let's close for the day.